Hello and welcome to Drive and Double Feature Podcast. I'm Nathan,
I'm Ryan.
and this is the podcast where we talk about 2 movies a week every Tuesday and Thursday. But before we get into today's movie, you can help support the show at patreon.com/Drive and Double Feature Podcast. Just for $5 a month, you help us get streaming services so we can get more movie episodes out to you. You get bonus episodes over there as well. Just us talking about modern things, maybe some fun quizzes over there. But getting into today's movie, we're talking about Bone from 1972. No, not the comic book character, the classic Bone series.
I love Bones. That's the one with David Boreanaz, right?
David Bowie, yeah. There's plenty of other Bone things. Mr. Bones is a Sega Saturn game. That's a jazz game. But no, this is like a Bone that I had never really known about until very recently. Directed by Larry Cohen, who we've talked about before on the show with Q, which is a movie we both really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And Larry Cohen's like a B movie king, and this is actually his directorial debut right here.
If he's a B movie king, is that why he named it Bone? Because it started with a B?
I think so. I think it's B B movie Bone. This movie is a trip and a half. I didn't know what to expect from it. It's just wild. It goes a lot of places.
I was kind of expecting like a 70s home invasion, kind of like a 70s version of He Ran All the Way, kind of. And what I got instead was just like, I was like, okay, I was not expecting even half of this stuff.
Yeah, and the reaction we have about this movie is very similar to the movie producers at the time, because I was looking into a lot of stuff. Larry Cohen actually did a bunch of interviews about this movie, and he talked about all the trailers they released, and the trailers made it look like a suspense thriller, or like one of them made it look like a sexploitation movie. And he was like, this is not what no, Bone is a comedy. That's what it is to me. Bone is a satire comedy, which is what it is, but it definitely feels like a movie that's like not easy to take in. It's very different, and I actually really like that about this movie.
I just like it because it goes places that I was not
No.
expecting at all, or just like there's so many trippy scenes, or like just like these weird existential type of scenes where it's like they're dealing with like their marriage, like the couple that's being abducted dealing with their marriage, and like it's like other weird side characters that come in where you're just like, who is this, and like what relevance? Like no relevance really.
No, not really. No, it's just kind of things happen and then they go away. It's really interesting from the start. It's interesting. So this movie is about a married couple, and the main guy is like a used car salesman. And this doesn't really play a lot into the movie. I just think it's interesting. He's selling used cars, and then like you can see inside the used cars, and it still has like the people that died in them. It's like dead people laid out in them, and he's like, "Get the cars today." It's so weird.
When they played that and I was watching that for the first time, I was like, oh my God, like, what is this movie already? I'm like, I'm not even 5 minutes in, I'm already questioning what's going on.
Yeah, it's and the way it's shot too, it's shot like a classic B movie, very like things are unfocused, the camera's always moving. It's really gross. There's something about it. But then it cuts to, so do you think a guy like this would have a lot of money? Because he lives in a huge house.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if it, like the used car lot was successful at one point, then yeah, I probably would. But
I guess so.
It's very clear though that it's not going good.
Yeah,
and
it's a facade in a way. As we come to find out that he is rich.
And apparently he used to have a dog sidekick that's no longer there for a very specific reason that they get into very later.
Yeah. What a great subplot about the dog. And oh man, that's later in the movie where that whole plot line goes. This movie almost becomes 2 movies at one time, and it's crazy. But so the movie's plot starts so like normally
abrupt.
It's just it's the two by the pool. they see a rat and it's like, oh, let's call an exterminator. And then they call up the exterminator. And for some reason, they think Yaphet Kotto, who it plays the titular character, he shows up. And for some reason, they're like, are you the exterminator? And then he grabs the rat and everything.
Well, no, they called the pool people. That's who they called, and then they're like, "Oh, you must have been with the exterminating." I guess they already had exterminators on site. Maybe I don't know, but they were like totally like, "Oh yeah, this is totally normal. This guy is just hanging out watching us swim in our backyard, and he's kind of like doing this weird like shimmy dance."
Yeah, this character is crazy because you never know where he's going to go with it. He says things that don't make sense. He says comical things, but then like he becomes dead serious. Like it's such a weird middle ground, and I really liked it. I actually really like. He might be one of my favorite performances we've done on the show because it never seen anything quite like it.
I mean, because I've seen Yaphet Kotto in other movies like Alien, Across 110th Street, and James Bond. But this one, it was just like, I don't know. There's just something so like that would just draw me into his performance. That he just spoke the way he spoke. It seemed so deliberate and just like he thought of it on the spot, but that's like how he meant to say. You know what I'm trying to say?
No, like, I get it. Yeah, I totally get what you say. Like everything he says, like has meaning, I guess, behind it. Like I don't know. It's weird. Like I get what you're saying. But
he acts so weird too when he appears because he's just like dancing a little bit, and then he's just like, oh yeah, I'll get that rat out, and he just pulls it out with his bare hands. And then he's got a dead rat in his hands. And they're like, okay, well, like, what are we going to do with it? He's like, you want me to throw it inside? And they're like, no, of course not. Why would we want that? And they're like, well, just go throw it over there. He's like, I ain't going to throw out a perfectly good dead rat.
Yeah, it's like a whole thing. And then, like, come to find out, Bone here is a robber. He came over there because they had the biggest house in the neighborhood and he wants to steal money from them. But guess what? They don't have any money. And it breaks down. This is what we're describing here is like what the first 10-15 minutes of this movie. It goes by so fast because they go upstairs. Well, first she gives like a home tour to him, which is a really weird. He's like, oh yeah, this is our sculpture, and I really like the water feature because you never know where the water feature starts. You have to go looking for it. And he's telling this to her robber.
Yeah, they don't want him in the house, but they're not really trying that hard to get him out of the house either. And they have all these like papers scattered on the floor, and he's just like going through them. He's like, oh, what's this? Like, you got a third mortgage on your home. And then she's like, what?
Yeah, he discovers the corruption in this house so fast. Like, it's like, he forged your name. This isn't even in your name. What I have right here. That kind of starts up the rest of the movie. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but while all this is going on, they do have like they cut in more scenes of like the used car lot or like a guy in prison. You don't know what that is just yet, but it's just like these like random cuts that are just thrown in, just totally just haphazardly.
Oh, I guess a fun fact. I don't know when I'll bring it up, but this home that they shot in is Larry Cohen's house. And you know who was supposed to play the wife in this originally?
Who?
Susan Sarandon was supposed to play this role, but was so scared by Larry Cohen's German Shepherd that she decided not to film.
Oh, I actually read she was supposed to be the grocery store girl.
Oh, is she supposed to be the grocery store? You might be correct on that one. Well, she is supposed to be in the movie,
right?
Yeah. Which is very interesting, I guess. But no. So one of the things, this movie, it kind of made me think about like modern times. You know, we're watching a 50-year-old movie here, because it is like He Ran All the Way, right? Where he kidnaps his wife in his house and is like, hey, you need to go out and you need to get me money. but I'm going to keep her here. And don't run to the police. I'll know if you're late. But, now it'd be like, let me get my cell phone out or something. Or if it was the 90s, let me get my car phone out and call the police really quickly.
Well, now, I mean, you could just be like, you could just like PayPal somebody like your entire savings. Like, here you go. Now leave my house.
That's true. Yeah, it's right there. You can just pull out your phone, tap your phone, and give them everything you got.
But yeah, so he gives him an ultimatum. He's like, all right, you got an hour to get back to this house. And if you don't, I'm going to rape your wife.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, don't do it. And but I guess the gag is like later, like when this comes up, is that he actually really doesn't want to do that.
No.
He's no. like when the time is up, he's just like, like, come on, where is he? Like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, it's like, I actually thought that added like another dimension to this movie, because like we see so many of these classic movies where he would have just done it.
Yeah, but, like, just been a total psychopath. But
yeah, but he gets to the point where he almost does it, and he says no, and he's like, I this is what you expected me to do. This is what you expect of me, but I can't be that person.
I actually really liked that part, because it was just kind of playing on stereotypes a lot, where you're just expecting him to be like this, like, criminal burglar that's just a total sociopath. But it's very clear he does have a conscience, and he's just like a guy that's like in a desperate spot. He's like, what? Like, this is what you guys expected of me. Like, you expect me to be like this big psycho, but like his own like internal conscience is telling him not to do it, which is actually like a really nice character trait.
Yeah, he's not pure evil or anything. He's actually a complex character.
Well, I was going to say, if there is a bad guy, it's actually the husband.
That's what I was about to say, because he goes on his own movie, and like it's like,
oh yeah,
so weird, because like I was not expecting this, because he goes to the bank to get the money, and there's a very comical scene of the woman in front of him asking him what kind of check, what's it on his check.
That was my favorite part of the whole movie, because it's just this weird conversation where he's just like standing there in the bank, and he's like trying to think about it. And she's like, this girl's like, oh, what type of checks do you have? And he's like, what? He's like, your checks, what do you have on them? Like, she's like, I've got these nice windsurfers on them. He's like, they're just plain checks. She's like, I think all money should be beautiful. Like, instead of Andrew Jackson, why don't they put a nice Monet on it?
Yeah, that's right. Just talking about checks.
And I'm like, what? I remember I was like, what is going on?
That's funny. You know what's weird? In my brain, he said plane checks, and I thought like he meant airplanes. I was like, oh, okay. I wonder why he's got airplane checks. No, you're right. It is just like plain old checks. That would make sense. But I like that she goes to this bank to get a specific check. She gets up there, and he's like, oh, we don't have that. You have to go to a different branch.
Oh, yeah. He says she wanted skin divers.
That's right, skin divers. And she just leaves this scene. I mean, she shows up again later, but as far as the audience, as we know, it's just like that plot line's over, and she's going up. Now the guy's going up the teller.
That was good too, because he goes up, and he's like, at first he's kind of frantic, being like, oh, like, I gotta hurry up home. And then he looks at the clock, and he's just like, because the guy, at the bank now, even now, it's like you go there and they're like, they try to sell you stuff at the bank, and he's like, oh, well, how about this new program we have, sir? And this would work out great for you. And he's like, I don't have time. And he's like, actually, you know what? Why don't you tell me about that? That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. So we find like there's this weird motive behind this character where he doesn't care. Like, he's just going to let his wife stay at home. And for all he knows, she's going to get raped by this man. And he's like, all right, whatever. I'm going to go on the town. I'm going to go to the bar. And like, I felt horrible during the whole sequence. I was like, what is this guy doing?
he wanted his wife to die. I mean, that's the only thing I could think of, is like he was hoping that he would, like, that Yaphet Kotto would murder him or murder his wife, and just he would be getting off scot-free.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's what a messed up couple, because that's what it ends up being. It ends up being about a couple where both of them are pretty just awful people. But he ends up sleeping with this woman in a very odd
Well,
scene.
You're forgetting one character. There's the he goes to a bar, and then there's a woman that's like obsessed with X-rays.
That's right. Oh my god! And showing him the mouth X-rays in the sun.
I saw that woman, and I'm like, she looks so familiar.
Yeah.
And she so when I was younger, I used to watch a lot of the Game Show Network.
Okay.
And Match Game was one of them, and she was actually one of the panelists on Match Games. And I was like, oh, that's Brett Summers. I know Brett Summers.
That's funny. Wow, what a connection.
Well, she's famous. She was married to Jack Klugman, the guy that played Oscar on the original Odd Couple TV series. So
really, okay. I mean, the name sounds really familiar, because I watched Game Show Network a lot as a kid as well. So
if you watched one from the 70s, almost 100% she was in that panel. But
okay.
But no, that's the scene too. She's like, here, look at their X-rays. Look at them. Look. Like, just frantically trying to get him to look at these X-rays.
It's like pulling him to the side, is showing him, and then isn't it in this bar scene as well where the dog gets brought up, and they're like, did you get that dog destroyed? And I think that's how they word it, not like killed, put down. It's literally like, you got the dog destroyed, didn't you? And it's like,
what? He's like, no, it was hit by a car or something, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking because of how that plot line ends, but
yes, yeah. But if there's one scene I could take out of this movie that I don't really like, is the scene that I was bringing up about him sleeping with the woman from the bank, and like she has a huge monologue about
she got molested by an older man in a theater when she was like 12 years old, and she like goes into really graphic detail about it too. Yeah. And I'm just like, I was grossed out during that. And but
he sleeps with her anyway.
Well, yeah. So she's like, actually, you look like that guy that was in the theater, and you know what? You smell like popcorn. And he's like, and she throws him onto the bed. He's like, oh man, how about I get you a Heath bar? Don't you love Heath bars? They're soft on the outside and crunchy in the middle.
That's my kind of pillow talk.
My favorite candy bar is the Three Musketeers. You can just nibble the chocolate.
Instant turn off. Three Musketeers, really?
Yeah.
But no, I the reason I bring this up is her trash can is a mail carrier box. Did you notice?
No, I didn't notice that.
Because they make a steak together and they eat it, and she takes the plates and she dumps it inside like a U.S. Postal Service mailbox. Like, that's her trash can. What? Where did they go for
the? One other scene too before that was they're hanging out in the grocery store.
Oh yeah.
The thing I was mesmerized by was how this guy eats a banana.
I didn't notice.
He ate the banana like a popsicle, or like he threw out. He was holding. But generally, if you eat a banana, you peel it enough to where you can hold it, and you hold it by the peel, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He threw out the entire peel and was just holding the whole banana, and just like.
No,
I'm just like, who does that? Like, I've never seen anybody eat it like that.
You're like contaminated. What's nice about a banana is you have the holder. That's what the peel is. It's like where you hold it, so you can I don't know, you don't get sticky hands and you don't contaminate the banana.
Yeah, well, I just like, why would you put your? I don't know, but that was just a scene that bothered me. But she just has like these weird monologues, but eventually he does have sex with her, and then he's just like, I gotta get the hell out of here, and he leaves.
What have I done? Kind of deal. Yeah. During all this, there is stuff going back at home, but I do have to say he does eventually call the cops, and this is actually my favorite scene.
Oh,
when he's in the phone booth, And he's like, this is anonymous calling for, with an anonymous tip. And they're like, the cops are just treating him like garbage. They're like, how do you spell anonymous? Huh? Like, and it's like, you dumb kid. And the cop starts calling him like horrible names.
It's like, why are you saying such filthy things? This is not a dirty phone call. He's like, yeah, maybe it is. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, what kind of world are we in? But no, back at home, back at their home, Yaphet Kotto and actually Joyce Van Patten, who's playing the woman here, who we might all know from being Rob Schneider's wife in Grown Ups 1. His old wife. Yeah,
of course.
Who wouldn't make that connection?
I've seen it so many times.
Yeah, but no, they actually, she ends up seducing Yaphet Kotto in one of the weirder scenes. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I do want to bring up the couple of scenes beforehand, like the tense moments where he's like, she's like, oh, like trying to calm him down, like, oh, do you want me to like make you dinner or something? He's like, yeah, I want you to make me dinner. She's like, well, how about scrambled eggs? He's like, I know, I don't want no scrambled eggs. I want a coddled egg. And I'm like,
I had to look it up.
Yeah, I did too, because I'm like, what the hell is a coddled egg? And just like the way you see it, where it's like you eating eggs out of a bowl or something like that. I'm like, huh?
It's like a boiled egg, but it's like boiled in like some kind of cup, and you eat it like with a spoon.
He was eating it like yogurt.
Yeah, I didn't get it, and I don't know. That seemed like fancy people food. I don't know.
No, he was very displeased when she made him a coddled egg. He didn't like her coddled eggs.
I know, she was supposed to, he was like, if you get alcoholic drinks, if you let me, if you make a good coddled egg, he spit it right out. Well, I like it. Yes. She's like, was it good? And he just goes, no.
And him eating a popsicle, he's like, sticks like half the popsicle in his mouth.
And he offers it to her to lick on. But it's like their dynamics, so it's kind of funny, because like I was saying earlier, she's treating him like a house guest, and he even says that later. It's like, why are you treating me like a house guest? But yeah, she's like making drinks for him, like she's like getting alcoholic drinks. She's like, you want one? I can get you anything you want.
Well, yeah, like, well, she's still like that even after the attempted rape.
That's literally right after that scene,
because he throws her onto like a poker table, and then he like starts taking off her clothes, and then just like before he can do anything, he's just like, forget it, like, go make me that drink.
Yeah. And I think that's all a part of an attempt, because I think she sees an opportunity here, and the movie, I don't think paints it then. I think it's saved for the end of the movie, and what's a really shocking ending, which we'll get there. I do want to talk about the ending, so I will say now spoilers, because I actually think this is a great movie, and I think you should watch it.
Yeah, should we say, or
no? We won't spoil it, but I will say that the final moments of this movie I thought were really shocking, and like what was comedic about the rest of the movie became like just depressing.
I was not expecting that type of ending.
No,
that's all. That's all I'm going to say is I was not expecting them to go in that direction. But
no, but leading up to that, it becomes like almost like an action comedy, because they team up after sleeping with each other, and she seduces Yaphet Kotto, and they're like, okay, well, let's kill my husband. So now they go into town to try to kill him, because they find out that he hasn't been to the bank, or he went to the bank but decided not to take out any money. I really like the parking garage scene where they chase him around in the parking garage, how he's able to outrun this car through the whole parking garage. He's doing a great job.
Yeah, they really go for it in that scene, don't they?
Yes, they do. It goes on for a while. In the trailer that they made for this movie that looked like a thriller, this was mostly what they showed in that trailer, was this car chase scene with like some crazy music. They made it look like, oh my God, there's going to be car stunts and they're going to be dodging vehicles, which I mean, they do kind of do.
Yeah, the last probably like the last like 20 minutes is pretty action packed, and
It is.
no, like they travel, like they chase this guy down like everywhere, like in this
Yeah.
guy like they go on the beach, everything too,
Mm-hmm.
like they chase him on foot.
Yeah, but what I found interesting about this ending was that they tell him, or Yaphet Kotto tells him his plans, that we're gonna kill you or whatever. And he actually bargains his life and is like, hey, I will give you a job, I will give you money, and you won't have to deal with me. I will just do my own thing. I just need a TV to live. That's all I need. You can
Oh
have my
yeah,
life.
when they're on the
And
bus and he's like
yeah.
negotiating.
Yeah. And what's weird, Kotto here, he's like okay with it. He looks like, okay, this could work. But it's the wife that's like, no, why? He's horrible. You don't want to live with him around.
Do you think he was thinking that, or because I almost thought he was like saying like yeah, like he was like kind of
Yeah,
like joking with him?
I'm not sure. I could see that he's joking, but because like the scene from the bus to the beach cuts very instantly, and goes from like him like kind of agreeing to straight to like, oh, we're gonna kill you on the beach, or we're gonna do something to you on the beach.
Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
that was funny. He was like, "Oh, like I just need a TV," and it's like, and I'll do all the yard work, and Bone is like, "No, I like doing the yard work." And he's like,
Yeah, he's like,
"Fine, we'll trade off."
that's okay. Yeah, I know. It was really funny actually. Um, but I think that's the movie as a whole. I don't know if you have anything more to
I,
like throw in.
I know. I mean, there's this movie really does need to be experienced. I mean, it's almost like I don't want to say too much of these stuffs because it's like I want more people to see the movie because I really
Yes.
do feel like this is such a hidden gem. Because I mean, even when you recommended it, I'm like, oh, okay, whatever,
Yeah.
and you know, like the ending, you know, if it wasn't so surprising, you know, it's different than like a giallo where it's like, okay, well, you know, somebody's going to be the murderer, so it's not really that shocking.
Mm.
But this one, it's just like it goes in such a direction that it's like, oh wow, like that one kind of hit me like a brick wall.
Yeah, it was a really like just like an instant like, damn, this just like the tone of this movie completely changed. And I always think it's interesting when movies do that. And no, everything you said plus one, like I think it's a movie worth experiencing. Really neat movie. I didn't know what to expect. I only saw the poster, read the description, and I came out with just like this crazy movie. Larry Cohen slowly rising up in like directors I need to watch more movies from.
Yeah, well, on a side tangent, I almost like they really don't make movies like this like at
No,
all, do they? I
they
mean,
really
anymore.
don't.
Like
Yeah.
like people were just trying like different stuff. I mean, now you know there are some like off the wall whatever
Mm-hmm.
kind of now, but to me it's like it was just kind of like a big you know like a big mix like a big mix of everything where they're like they
Mm-hmm.
trying to make a comedy and then it's like this existential crisis slash action slash
Mm-hmm.
uh exploitation movie. So it's you don't really see movies like this like anymore. Like I just that's why when people always ask me like what's my favorite decade of cinema,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost always 70s because
Yeah.
it's always the 70s, like even now, like, even by today's standards, this is still pretty like innovative.
Oh, I agree. You like past the 70s because I was about to add in on you a little bit earlier. But yeah, the 70s is my favorite era as well because it just seemed like they were trying so many different things. From the 60s to the 70s was almost like this crazy pushback. Like we are gonna, screw film form, screw film theory. We just want to do whatever the hell we want and have fun with it. And it just created so many interesting movies. So
Yeah, and kind of like late 70s, like 80s, they kind of found like this pattern, like, oh, like if we make a movie this way, it will be
mhm.
successful. So let's make all movies that way. But I mean,
Yeah.
not to say there aren't some good movies,
Oh, of
but I'm
course
just like,
not.
but
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, it's like, okay, now they figured out the pattern. Like in the 70s, it was just like, we don't know what to do to make a hot
Yeah,
movie.
because movies like Easy Rider were making tons of money, right? And it was like, what? What do we do? Like, why is this
Yeah.
making money? you know. But
So
it is what it is.
so yeah, huge recommend. Probably one of my favorites that we've talked about now. I mean, it's like just such a great performance from everybody all around. And it was something that I wanted to see for a long time that I didn't know I wanted.
Yeah, same here. All right, cool. Well, then that's a big recommendation from both of us. But Ryan, what are we going to be talking about on Thursday?
Well, Nathan, we're going to be talking about something from the 30s. Let's go back to the past. A classic movie directed by one of the classic directors, Fritz Lang. And that's going to be The Testament of Dr. Mabuse. And that is going to be over on HBO Max.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to watch that. If you want to recommend us anything, or if you have anything to say about this week's movies, you can email us over at driveindoublefeaturepodcast@gmail.com. No dashes. And also you can tweet at us over at DIDF Pod. But until next time.
Till next time.